Hello everybody and welcome to another live research video, where in today's video we will be taking a deep dive into the fight between Davey Grant and Grigorii Popov, which takes place this weekend at UFC on ESPN plus 21. So hopefully everyone had a very good night on UFC 244. Hopefully you all made money. I made a decent amount myself. Won bets on Masvidal and Darren Till. Lost a bet on Brad Tavares. I don't really follow units and stuff, though. Units are not something I am a fan of at all. I think they're a silly concept. I was pretty big on Jorge Masvidal come fight time, so it was very nice to make a decent profit to kick off a brand new month of betting in November. And there's only 5 events left between now and the end of the year, so hopefully we could finish the year strong, bosh out some nice profits. It's already been a great 2019, and hopefully we can make it even better between now and the end of the year. Maybe we can make it better by finding a solid bet on this fight between Popov and Grant. So there's plenty of names jumping out at me at the moment, plenty of fights that I want to research before the odds move too much. And Popov, you know, of all the fighters competing on this card, he was one of the first names that jumped out at me. You know, my memory of him in his UFC debut against Eddie Wineland, which is a very difficult opponent to make a UFC debut against. You know, in my mind, in memory, Popov looked very good, despite the fact that he was knocked out in the second round. Now, I've just gone back and watched that fight, and he looked okay, definitely, you know, looked okay, reasonably technical striking. Wineland took him down as well, and Popov did a great job of immediately popping back to his feet, which is great. But obviously the fight only lasted for 10 minutes, so we didn't learn a great deal about him. So with you guys today in this live stream, I am going to be watching another one of Popov's fights before I kind of give my final verdict on this one. So if you're watching live on Twitch, please remember, drop your questions in the live chat on Twitch if you have any. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and also if you're watching this on YouTube, also please subscribe and like the video. It would really make a big difference to me and help the channel grow. So before we get into watching one of Popov's recent fights, I've just said that I've gone back and watched Popov's last fight against Wineland. I also went back and watched his last 3 fights. I've just finished watching his fights against Stasiak, Vera and Bermudez, and it's kind of difficult to form an opinion on Davey Grant because, as you can see, he's only fought once since October 2016. So that's, you know, 3 years ago now. He's only fought once in the last 3 years, and he has only spent 59 seconds in the octagon since then. Manny Bermudez was able to get him out there very quickly with a very fast submission. So didn't really learn anything about Davey Grant in this fight. So we have no idea how much he has improved since we last saw him at UFC 204 against Damian Stasiak, and it's kind of amazing, to be honest. The 3 years has passed since that Bisping Henderson fight. Time flies, certainly does fly. And Tasmanian in Twitch with the trifecta of new emotes. We've got the Shub, the Rogan and the Eddie Bravo emotes all fully approved. Very cool to see him, to see Tasmanian using them. Tasmanian 187, very cool. Now we have got a difficult task really here of capping this fight, because like I say, Davey Grant's only spent a minute in the cage in the last 3 years, so it's impossible to measure how much he has improved. You know, over the last few weeks we've seen, you know, young fighters improve in such a short space of time, and I know that Davey Grant is not particularly young at 33 years old, but he is young in his MMA career with only 12 pro fights, so impossible to measure how much he's improved in the last 3 years. Going back and watching his fights against Vera and Stasiak, I see 2 very different fighters. When the fight was standing against Stasiak, Grant wasn't that fluid, wasn't that technical, didn't look great standing, and possibly because he was worried about Stasiak taking him down, it made it difficult for him to let his hands go, and so did look a bit stiff standing against Stasiak, didn't look very good at all, and Stasiak was easily able to take him down and control him on the ground, which wasn't good. It probably won't be a factor in this fight because Popov is primarily a Muay Thai based fighter. Seriously doubt that Popov is going to be looking to take this fight to the ground, but you never know. It is a bit of a hole in Davey Grant's skill set, and you know, the interesting thing is, you know, this win against Marlon Vera back in 2016, might look very impressive, but Marlon Vera was a very different fighter back then. Marlon Vera is fast, explosive, devastating KO power in every strike these days, but back in 2016 wasn't that impressive. Completely different fighter. It's a different Marlon Vera that Davey Grant fought back in 2016, and if you go back and watch this fight, you'll see a real difference between Grant's fight against Stasiak and his fight against Vera, because against Vera his striking looks very technical. He's very loose, very fluid, nice combinations, throws a wide range of strikes, and that wasn't there against Stasiak. I have a feeling that Davey Grant might have had an injury when he fought Damian Stasiak, because like I said, he looked a lot worse than he did against Marlon Vera. And of course the difficulty we've got here now in order to try and cap this fight is we don't know how much Grant's improved in the last 3 years. And he looked very different in these two matchups. So what is the real Davey Grant? What are we going to get on Saturday night at UFC on ESPN Plus 21? We don't really know because of how inactive Grant has been. Oh Jesus, Rostar with the ultimate Twitch emote. He dug up an Illuminati emote out of nowhere. I've never seen that one before. That is definitely my favourite emote. So what we've got to do here is just kind of establish if there's a betting opportunity, right? It's not looking good. At least it's not looking good from what I've seen so far, because the way I'm looking at it at the moment is from these 3 fights I've watched and from this fight that I've watched against Eddie Wineland, if Grant shows up and performs like he did against Vera, this is probably going to be a close fight. If he shows up and performs like he did against Stasiak, he's probably going to struggle. But then we also can't be too harsh on Popov, because this was his UFC debut. It was a massive step up in competition. I mean, look at the records of the guys that he's fought, you know. I always say fights aren't fought on paper, they're fought in a cage. But, you know, to go from fighting guys with records of 4-4 who tapped out due to low kicks, you know, 3-2, 0-0, 5-6, to then going and fighting an absolute monster like Eddie Wineland, it's not easy. And at least for a little while, Popov held his own. And we know the fighters are very, very unlikely to show their best their UFC debut. Usually they underperform, so we can expect more from Popov this weekend against Davey Grant. But look, there's not a lot of footage available on Popov, which again makes this a difficult fight to cap. You know, these 3 fights aren't available to watch online. If they are, I can't find them, and they did all end very, very quickly. But we do have this fight to watch against Sung Jae Kim from back in 2017. Obviously, on one hand, this is great because it's a fight that went the distance. On the other hand, it's not great because it was in February 2017, which is over 2 years ago now. So, again, who knows how much Popov might have improved since then. And he might have improved a lot because, as you can see here on Popov's Instagram profile, he does train at Tiger Muay Thai, you know, one of the best MMA gyms in the world. He could have improved a hell of a lot since this fight that we're about to see from him here from back in 2017. In terms of where Davey Grant trains, he trains at SBG Manchester with guys like Saul Rogers. You know, not the best gym to train at, not the worst either. Here we can see Davey Grant, you know, with the guys that train at his gym. Don't really recognise anyone in this picture. So yeah, definitely a good sign that Popov trains at one of the best MMA gyms in the world. So we're going to watch this fight now. I guess the way I am looking at this fight from a betting point of view is Popov was one of the first names that jumped out to me, because from memory I didn't think Davey Grant was very good. I was actually quite pleasantly surprised by the Marlon Vera fight. He performed quite well. And Popov is a tough Russian who did pretty damn good in his UFC debut against a nightmare of opponent in Eddie Wineland. So I was thinking Popov might have been an easy bet, an easy money bet, home advantage, tough, possibly an advantage striking, possibly an advantage on the ground too. We'll watch this fight and find out. So, oh, nice one, Dr. Remalak. Cheers, mate. And nice one, ice is quite cold. We will keep it going, dude, for sure. Might even do another live stream in a few hours. There is another fight that I want to look at before the odds move too much. So we'll get through this one quickly, and then we might pump another one out after this. So let's watch this fight. I guess the way I'm looking at this from a betting perspective is, you know, if we look at the odds, Popov's around about 1.50, which is minus 200 for an implied probability of 67%. So to get any value here, you'd want at least sort of like 71, 72% that you'd cap him at. And then if we look at the odds on Davey Grant, around about 2.70, which is plus 170 for an implied probability of 37%. You'd want to be capping Davey Grant at like 45 to 50% here in order to get any value, which is going to be very difficult to do considering he's only spent a minute in the octagon in the last 3 years. We don't know what to expect from him, and we don't really know a lot about Popov. So what I'm hoping to see is Popov look absolutely amazing in this 2017 fight against Sung Jae Kim. And then we can get a nice easy money bet off Popov. We will see. We will see what he brings to the table. Pancration referee. Give him a like as well. If you're watching this after the fact as well, boys, on YouTube, please hit the like button. Help as many people see this video as possible when you do that. So obviously we've got Popov here in the white shorts. And this is really, I mean, the main fight that we've got to base our opinion on. This is the fight where we've got to decide which side to bet. Is there any value on Grant? Is there any value on Popov? The difficulty here is, obviously, say Popov looks like shit here, and then we determine there's value on Grant. Well, that's dangerous because, I mean, we haven't really seen much of Popov in the last 2 years. We've seen a bit of his takedown. Wow, okay, that's interesting. I was just about to say we were about to see a bit of his takedown defense there. His opponent in on a body lock. Very nice judo throw. Explosive judo throw. Which is interesting because you look at Popov, who's primarily a Muay Thai guy. This fight was 2 years ago, and that's showing some serious technique, some serious judo. So quite clearly, he's not just a pure Muay Thai fighter. He's got some other skills in the locker as well. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to complete that technique with such athleticism, such explosion. And now we get to see a little bit of his clinch game. I was just saying it's a difficult one for betting because, say Popov does look like shit here, you still can't rush out and bet Grant because who knows how much he would have improved in the last 2 years since this fight took place in 2017. Really all I'm looking for here is for Popov to look amazing, because if Popov in this fight looks good enough to beat Davey Grant, knowing, you know, he could have improved a ton in the last 2 years, that's the point at which you could bet. But it's looking unlikely. It's not looking like a very good one for betting, if I am honest. Thanks a lot, Irish brother, dude. Yes, early bird catches the worm and all that, man. It's like 2 a.m. here in the UK. The wife's gone to bed, so I thought I'll stay up, get a bit of fight research in. I'm feeling burnt out at the moment, boys. I'm not going to lie to you. Literally, like since August, just been back to back to back to back UFC every weekend. And it wouldn't be so bad if it was just the UFC, but these Bellators are killing me. The amount of Bellator cards that we've had since August, it's just been absolute madness. So I am feeling a bit burnt out, so I thought get a couple fights out the way tonight, because it's a big 13 fight card this weekend. Get a couple fights under our belt, get a head start on it, and then hopefully this week won't be as tough, because we've got a Bellator this week as well. And to be fair, I actually think Bellator have had some bad events, but I actually think this is the worst Bellator card I have ever seen. Let me know what you think, guys. I mean, look at this. John Salter against Costello Van Steenis in the main event. King Mo against Andrew Capel. Arlene Blencow against Leslie Smith. Terrell Fortune against Azuna and Wan Yu. Just such a bad event. Absolutely terrible event. Probably the worst Bellator event I have ever seen, which is quite bad because, let's be real, they've had some stinkers. So here, obviously, Popov has been mixing it up in the clinch for a while. They finally disengage, finally get to see a little bit more of what he brings to the table here. Is this Sung Jae? What is this guy's name? Sung Jae Kim. So Kim landed a couple of big shots on Popov there, but we saw in the Eddie Wineland fight that Popov does have a pretty good chin. I know that he was knocked out in round 2, but that was more from the volume that he was taking. Eddie Wineland landed some bombs in the first round and broke him down with volume. But we are seeing Popov's striking defense possibly a little bit questionable here. Now, in the last minute or so, we've seen him eat 3 really, really clean, hard shots from Kim. And Popov looking very flat-footed here. Hands down low. Striking defense not looking the best. Nice counter there. Nice counter right hand. Slips a leg kick. But Popov is definitely there to be hit. We saw it in his UFC debut against Eddie Wineland, and we are definitely seeing it here against Kim. We also know he can take it. He's got one hell of a chin. Nice one, Ben Mooney. Thanks a lot, dude. Nice one, Kafanex. Cheers, man. Yeah, Darren Till and Masvidal came through for us in a big way, man. Hopefully, we can do it again this week. Like I say, Popov was one of the first names that jumped out at me. It's not looking like I'm going to bet Popov. It's not looking very good at the moment. And then there's another name jumping out at me. I don't want to mention it here because liquidity is still low at this stage in the week, so the odds might get absolutely smashed if I mention it here. But there is one guy I'm going to research next that I'll do a live stream for. I'll do a live research session for it. Could be a really good bet. This is one of those events where, like, I scan through all these fights and there's plenty of names that jump out at me. But it's also one of those cards where I wouldn't be surprised if I don't end up with any bets. It's one of those situations where you're like, oh, Popov's a tough Russian. Davey Grant's not great. Popov's going to be a good bet. And then when you actually start looking at the footage and digging into it, you're like, oh, maybe not. I mean, in the first round, Popov looks okay, but nothing special. Doesn't blow your hair back. Quite flat-footed. Striking defense, possibly not the best. Didn't show a lot of urgency in the clinch. Let his opponent control him in the clinch for quite a long period of time. Very nice judo throw, but obviously not the best top control because Kim was immediately able to pop back up to his feet. Very nice inside leg kick. A lot of the Tiger Muay Thai fighters, you think of all the Tiger Muay Thai guys, amazing leg kicks. I mean, we saw a little bit of that from Fiziev last week. Kim giving him one back though. Popov also southpaw here. Could give Davey Grant some problems. I'm not sure. I can't actually remember what stance Davey Grant is. Let's take a little look, shall we? You can always find out what stance a fighter is on the UFC stats website. Oh, it doesn't actually say. Alright, that's something for me to actually have a look at after the fight. After we watch this. I can't show you guys that because the content on Fight Pass is going to be copyright restricted, but I will go have a look. Not that it'll really affect my betting decision, but because it will be useful to know in live betting what we're going to be getting. Popov's gone back to orthodox here. Just really exchanging leg kicks. Popov's not looking too scary though. You know, very, very nice takedowns. Nice takedown there, but difficult to hit a trip takedown like that if your opponent just went to underhooks. But then Davey Grant doesn't have the best takedown defense. Davey Grant is the kind of guy that would get caught with a trip takedown like that. Get to see a little bit of Popov's top game here though. His opponent's in a strong position to stand back up because he's got the cage that he can use to wall walk back up, but instead he's choosing to fish for an armbar, which he creates a scramble off the armbar and is able to pop back up that way. So creative way to stand back up. I mean, we've seen Popov hit 2 very nice takedowns now. He had the judo throw, also had that trip takedown, but appears not to have the heaviest top game. Kim, don't know anything about Kim, but what was his records? 15-4, something like 10-2. Probably not the strongest grappler. Crypto leverage, I did pretty good last night, dude. So I had bets on Masvidal, Till, and Brad Tavares. But I'm a bit of a lunatic when it comes to gambling. Just basically it helps keep accounts open longer. So I went quite big on Masvidal. So he came through for me in a big way. I just felt super confident in Masvidal. It's very rare that I feel like mega confident in a fighter. I just thought he was better than Diaz everywhere, and luckily he showed it. Because you never know in these big pay-per-views, man. You never know which way they're going to go. You see some crazy results. Oh, congratulations, Shlu, well done, man. Yeah, that Kevin Lee head kick, Jesus, that was one of the nastiest head kicks I've seen in a while. It was just the way Gregor went down, man. Absolutely vicious. And I'm really glad that Kevin Lee got that win, man, because I feel like MMA fans are just horrible. Like I experience it a lot, you know what I mean, firsthand. Like, I've only got a small audience. 4,000 subscribers on YouTube is nothing, but I'm not exaggerating when I say literally every day I get like 10, 15, 20 nasty comments, nasty emails, nasty DMs, whatever. I get slammed every day, and I've only got a small audience. So for Kevin Lee, a guy with like a few 100,000 followers, must be absolutely horrendous. Like, people are calling him washed up, chinny. And it's just horrible for a young fighter to have to go through that. Like, Darren Till spoke openly after the fight about all the demons he had faced. People are just absolute bastards. So it was pretty cool to see Kevin Lee come back like that, because I feel like if Gregor lost, I mean, it was a bad head kick, but I feel like Gregor can bounce back from that. Whereas I feel like if the shoe was on the other foot, say Kevin Lee gone knocked out like that, all these fickle MMA fans, they'd be saying he's chinny, he's done, he's washed up. They'd be calling for his retirement at 27 years old, which is absolute madness, absolutely silly, considering how many years Kevin Lee's still got to improve. So I'm really glad Kevin Lee got the win. I feel like he needed it, and he earned it, man. He's a top fighter. Nice one, Caffo, next, dude. So Popov's obviously not blowing my hair back here, boys, in case you hadn't realised. One of these guys that doesn't look like they deserve a 1.50 minus 200 price tag. I mean, yes, he has possibly some nice judo in the locker. Very, very fast, very technical, very hard leg kicks, but quite flat-footed, not the best striking defense. He's definitely there to be hit, but very, very nice leg kicks. But that's obviously his main weapon. Is that enough to take him at 1.50 minus 200? Again, the problem is, Popov, he's got a Tiger Muay Thai logo on his shorts here. Train at Tiger Muay Thai every single day for 2 years. Like, I'm sure, like, I'm a giant pussy, I can't even throw a punch. I'm sure if I went to train full time at Tiger Muay Thai for 2 years, I'd probably be pretty fucking good as well, because it's such a good gym. Do you know what I mean? If you're training there every day, you're gonna improve a lot. So even though Popov isn't amazing here, certainly has a decent foundation to work from, right? Vicious leg kicks. Clearly has a very good chin, reasonably good cardio, at least some level of grappling, with the judo throw in particular that he was able to hit. Possibly not too much power though. His opponent stood right in front of him for the majority of this fight, flat-footed, and Popov hasn't really been able to hurt him with his punches, which is probably a sign that Popov lacks a bit of power. Let's be real, Kim is very, very tired here, stood right in front of Popov. Not really causing him too much of a problem. Yeah, mastered by Jazz for sure, man. Like I've been betting on MMA for about 10 years now. And I can't quantify it, this is just anecdotal evidence, but you just see way more crazy shit happen on big pay-per-views. Like, big pay-per-views just are absolute chaos for betting. So I always play big pay-per-views small. It's these small regional fight night cards where the money is to be made. Like, the big pay-per-views tend to be quite hard for betting because of just so many unpredictable things you see happen. Now, as it happens, Tilla Masvidal came through for me in a big way, which was nice. But yeah, it was a crazy night, man. There was definitely something in the air which led to a lot of those first round finishes. Yeah, I definitely slew, man. I'm not exaggerating. Like, I don't want to make it sound like I'm making excuses, but I've been on the wrong end. There's so much horrendous judging, and it never balances out, man. I don't know why, but particularly in the last 2 years, the judges have cost me tens and tens and tens of thousands of pounds just through total robberies, basically, and it doesn't balance out. I've been doing this for 10 years now, and it doesn't swing the other way. It's not like I suddenly go on a 6-month run of being on the right end of loads of bad decisions. It never goes like that. I never get lucky with them. Like once or twice maybe, but the amount of bad decisions I lose compared to the ones I win, it's probably like 8 or 9 to 1, or 8 to 2, or 9 to 1, you know what I mean? If we're ranking it out of 10, it's horrendous. So yeah, they should definitely do something about the judging. And I would love it if they did what Rogan suggested and having to show their scorecards after each round, because at least that would give the judges some accountability, you know? And Popov obviously looking much better here in the third round, but that is basically he's got a punching bag in front of him. Kim has obviously been very, very tired in this round, flat-footed, stood in front of him. It's allowed Popov to get a little bit looser, a little bit more creative, and throw some flashy strikes, but doesn't tell us too much because obviously he wouldn't be able to do this against a fresher opponent, someone that could punish him with counters, someone that could, you know, take him down by catching maybe one of these flashy kicks. No, unfortunately, slow in. It's never evened out for me, man. Never evened out for me. It's like an incredibly imbalanced number as well. It's kind of like I lose way more bad decisions and I win like by a huge margin. And I don't know the reason for that. People say it's like a psychological thing where, you know, you remember the bad beats, you don't remember the lucky ones. That's horseshit. Like, ask any of my elite members, man. The amount of bad decisions we lose compared to the ones we win, it's just fucking not even close. So that is that, boys. It's quite a straightforward fight for me. I am going to pass on this. The way I look at this is, you know, if you look at Davey Grant, this is one of those fights where I feel like if you've just watched Popov there, you could fall into the trap of thinking, oh, you know, Davey Grant, he's a reasonably big underdog. There's value there. I'll take a gamble on him. Popov doesn't look very good. But what you've got to remember is even at these odds of 2.70, that still gives you an implied probability of 37%. So you'd want to be capping this fight at 45 to 50% to get any kind of margin over the bookie. And it's really difficult to get to that number because if the fight stays standing, it's probably going to be very close. We know Davey Grant's got pretty bad takedown defense. We know that he's pretty damn weak off his back. There's not that much footage available on Popov over the last couple of years, so who knows how much he might have improved since this fight. Davey Grant's been very inactive. And, you know, Popov's got home advantage. He's training full-time at Tiger Muay Thai. He could be really, really good. So I'm not rushing out to bet on Popov as a big favourite. And I'm definitely not rushing out to bet on Grant either. This is a very, very easy pass for me, boys. Schlo22, I think the judging is down to corruption and incompetence. I think it's probably a bit of both. You know that pretty much every sport since time began has been linked to fight fixing and corruption. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if it happened in the UFC as well. Because it happened on a card in Korea, didn't it? With Tai Hyung Bang, who was put in jail for a fight fixing scandal on one of the UFC Korean events. So yeah, I'm sure it goes on, man. But the thing is, judges aren't held accountable. And wherever there's money, there's going to be corruption. You know, at the end of the day, judges get paid like a couple $1,000s for judging an MMA card of the UFC's magnitude. I think Herb Dean was saying that you got paid like $1,600 or something per event. So it's not that much. Whenever you get that level of whenever you get like a massive imbalance in money, I always think there's going to be corruption where you can find yourself in a situation as a judge where you could take big bribes or you could bet large amounts on a fighter. If the large amounts you could win betting on a fighter or that you could be bribed much greater than the amount you're being paid, obviously there is a possibility for corruption. And this is not specific to the UFC. It happens in every sport. It's happened in Spanish football, Italian football, the NBA, you name it, there's been corruption. So I'm sure it's a little bit of both. So with that, boys, that is going to be it for this live stream. No bets on this fight for me. This is an easy pass for me. I will keep digging, and I might be back in like the next hour or two with another live stream. We'll see how it goes. I'm feeling a bit tired. You can probably tell I haven't got as much energy as usual. But that is the first fight of the week ticked off the list, boys. I'll be back very, very soon with another one of these live research videos. But for now, boys, thanks for watching. I'll be back very, very soon.